What's happening, guys? We got Saturday sports to talk about. We did the NFL video yesterday. If you're interested, check it out. We got ourselves a two-game slate. As you can see, I'm already dressed up for the day right here as the Packers take on the Panthers tonight. In the meantime, though, we got ourselves a three-game NBA preseason slate. Last day of preseason, regular season starts next week. I'm sure we're not alone in being excited about that. This will be like a members-only type of video, but it'll be for everybody. It's the only NBA video we're going to do today. There's just the three games. You guys showed up big time yesterday. We got a ton of likes on the video, so this is free for everybody. If you want the NBA package on sale for $75, it's going to be $120 next week. Use the PayPal or Venmo address below, and the lifetime special will run through tomorrow, which is 25% off the normal $400. It'd be $300. That's a lifetime pass. That's good permanently. No future payments ever. I mean, no matter what we do, prices we raise, you're locked in forever with no future payments.
Literally can't beat it. And yeah, man, I'm hyped to talk this slate out with you. That being said, it is the last preseason slate. The contests are smaller. Didn't have a good night last night, so I'm looking forward to the regular season now.
Yeah, I am. I don't know. I guess we both said we had stuff going on in real life yesterday, so we couldn't really pay attention. I threw in three small dollar lineups and doubled up in one, lost in another, and played Damian Lillard in another one and didn't even pay enough attention to find out he wasn't playing.
Well, welcome to the club. I used Damian. I made 10 lineups and my plans ended up getting pushed back. So I was going to be available for lock. So, and then I was doing stuff after. So I had Dame in a bunch of my lineups. I took him out. I just straight swapped him for McCollum in most of them because I was like, I don't have too much time. McCollum's obviously bump up. Don't care too much about the salary. Then I realized like a couple minutes after 9, I forgot to take him out of one. The only one of my lineups that didn't have Brandon Ingram.
Yeah,
he was awful.
Yeah, he was. He fouled out of a preseason game. Not good.
No, he was bad. He was about as bad as he'll ever be.
And Zion continues to roll. If you're playing year-long fantasy this year, like Zion is going to go for a pretty penny in auction drafts. People are going to overpay for him. So as much as I think he's going to have a nice season, just be prepared for that. Speaking of year-long fantasy, guys, if anybody's interested, I still got a couple spots available in the Monday night draft and one spot available in the draft tomorrow night if anyone's interested. But we are here to talk about the preseason slate. And let's go to the Charlotte-Orlando game. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about the last game first, just because I got that box score pulled up from last game when the Hawks took on the Grizzlies. Have you heard any rumblings, any rumors about the minutes for the starters tonight? Because this is game 4 for both of these young teams. Have you heard anything at all that should give us an inkling that guys like Trae Young or Ja Morant will play lower minutes tonight?
I have not. I have not. I expect these guys to play close to 30 minutes unless we hear otherwise. And it's obviously a risk, you know?
Yeah, it's the last game, as you kind of already mentioned. Actually, we both mentioned this. So, I'm more concerned with guys like a Damian Lillard, who probably got pulled for a phantom injury. Obviously, we were big on Giannis yesterday. He was announced with back issues, quote unquote, later in the day and stuff like that. So keep your eyes peeled. But I've also been given no reason to think anything otherwise. You know what I mean? Like, I have heard nothing to make me believe that Ja Morant won't continue to come out and play, 25 to 30 minutes, play awesome while he's out there, because he's been awesome in all 3 preseason games. But it could change. It's 10:47 Central. This could easily change.
No doubt about that. You just got to keep your eyes peeled to the news.
All right. So speaking of this first game, or this last game, Atlanta against Memphis, if you don't hear anything, and because we have a buttload of money to spend today, it's difficult not just to start with the double up of Ja Morant and Trae Young, because you have all the money in the world. You can afford all the studs today.
I agree.
I mean, if you want to be different, but like Morant and Trae Young are good. Morant's been phenomenal in the preseason. Unless you hear something differently, I feel like there's a good opportunity. You're just throwing your money away if you don't ride this chalk right here.
And those guys, these are 2 guys I like a lot. So, yeah, I agree with that. A big reason I definitely agree with that here is because there's only 3 games. And Washington is, they've got a bunch of question marks. Detroit is Detroit. And then you got the other game. So I'm with you. There aren't that many, mountains to climb on this slate.
No, in the first game, you got Vucevic, who's also been phenomenal in the preseason. You can roster Ja Morant, Trae Young, and Nick Vucevic and still have tons of money to play around with. So unless you hear otherwise, I kind of feel like you just ride Chalk City with those 3. And then if you want to differentiate the other 5 spots, that's 5 spots to do that. I think that's the way to go. unless you hear something different. If you hear Vucevic is only playing 10 minutes or out, clearly you don't play him.
I agree.
So anybody else, and I'm guessing you're going to say that from this late game that there is a young man by the name of Dylan Brooks that you like. I know he was really good for you the other day. He's coming off back-to-back really good preseason games. Went for 24, 4, and 4 the other day, 10 of 15 from the field. No Jaren Jackson Jr. He kind of like the second, third banana on this offense.
Yeah, exactly. He looks good right now. Shooting a lot of shots, a lot of threes. He's very involved. Gets some rebounds, gets some assists. He's good. And you mentioned the point about Jaren Jackson the other day, and I couldn't agree more.
And where does this team go for offense besides Brooks and Morant, right?
Yeah, and I will say, like, J-Val absolutely smashed in the third quarter. I wanted to say going into the third quarter, he had 6 points and 4 boards. And he did all his work in the third quarter. And the announcers were like, holy, J-Val is smashing.
Yeah, I mean, Val is very capable of doing that. But I just want to we're going to come out of that game for a second, just talk about Trae Young, John Morant, and then you got Vooch right there. Could you get Val? I don't think so. Well, no, actually, you technically could. You could get all 4 of these guys if you're willing to pay down for everybody else, which is going to be applicable today. So, I mean, you can do that. It's not even really going to be that hard because I'm sure as we go through these guys, there's going to be a couple of 4K guys you can roster.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't hear anything, though, I would rank Vucevic ahead of Val.
Would rank Vucevic ahead of Val. I agree. I mean, he's just definitely safer for sure.
And I would say the flip side of that is I would just assume Vucevic would be higher owned.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that it's very hard to not use Vooch unless you hear the minutes are down. That being said, I don't know if you saw this, but this is kind of the opposite point. Like Anthony Davis, did you see that last night?
No, I didn't. I paid less attention to the preseason last night than I had all the other days.
Threw up a cool 60.
Wow. And how many minutes did he play?
I think they played good minutes, not 30 plus, but 25 to 28.
Okay. Well, hell of a game for Anthony Davis. Vucevic has probably been, I think Morant and Vucevic, if I had to guess, lead all players in the NBA in preseason DFS points right now. So they've played a lot of games. They've played good minutes in all of them. You were on Morant game 1 through game 3. He's been phenomenal. And then Vooch has just been nothing but walking 20 and 10 the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Take your best guess. Look into beat reporters on Twitter if you're looking for something different. I just think those guys make a lot of sense. As far as the rest of Atlanta and Memphis, we saw this game play out last time. We've mentioned Morant, Brooks, and Val. There's this kid, Bane. What do you know about him? He had a solid performance coming off the bench.
Yeah, I used Bane a couple of games ago. Was their first-round pick out of TCU. He's a good scorer. I got no issues going there. I was going to say, though, isn't Cam Reddish or someone out for Atlanta?
Reddish is questionable right now.
Okay.
And he's been really good as well.
Yeah. So I was going to say,
probable.
I don't know. Atlanta's got a lot of these guys, though, that like Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Huerter. I mean, Bogdanovich is better, but he kind of fits that mold,
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's Trae Young is their top dog, but Capella's also played really well. We know how good John Collins can be. John Collins is a guy who can smash in short periods of time. He's a little bit up and down, and especially with all these other guys you talked about, it's not super consistent. Reddish is a guy I don't mind using if he's in this game, and he's listed as probable because he's had a couple of nice games. In 19 minutes the other day, he went for 12, 5, 2, and 3. Definitely a guy we saw make massive improvements down the stretch last year. It's a nice talent.
No doubt about it.
So Capella's another guy too. I don't even know exactly what his price tag is.
He was kind of popular last night because he was really cheap.
Yeah, and he's still pretty cheap right here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call him a must. I don't think he's going to play monster minutes.
I agree.
Like him though. And I do think Collins ends up being kind of an odd man out right here.
I do too.
Because I think the Morant, Trae Young, Vucevic starting point is going to be really popular. And then inking a guy like John Collins automatically gives you issues right away. So, I mean, you're not going to get him at 1% today, but my guess is more like 20, 25.
I agree. Which for a 3-game slate is pretty low owned.
Exactly. I mean, 20% is like chalky on a 12-game slate, but if you're talking showdown or 2 or 3 game slate, that's, low-ish at least, right?
Agreed.
Rondo's out again today, which is good for Reddish. Not bad for Bogdanovich and Trae Young. It doesn't mean a ton, but that's one less guy taking minutes in the backcourt. They could go deeper on their backcourt if needed to be, or run the scrubs, but we haven't been led to believe anything else otherwise. You mentioned Hunter last time out, 5 of 8 from three-point range. Solid. He didn't do anything besides that. So there's definitely ways for him to get better or worse today.
For sure.
But, I mean, that kind of breaks down this game. I mean, I think you pay attention to the studs. You give a look to a Dylan Brooks, who's been, again, he's in that weird mid-tier, but he's been awesome. And then you got, Bane coming off the bench if you're looking for a cheaper player.
Yeah, exactly. I think that makes a lot of sense here. I don't hate also the idea of like a Brandon Clark, in tournaments, but I agree with you on that would be like the core of this game.
Sure. And I'm with you. No arguments right here on that point. All right, let's go check out the Charlotte Hornets and Orlando Magic game because these teams just matched up as well. And very much like this other game, these are, I believe, game 4 for each of these teams.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say 3 or 4, but maybe 4.
It's definitely 4 for the Magic, and I'm pretty sure it's 4 for the Hornets. So, No Gordon Hayward again. We saw last time out, the coach came out before the game and said that the starting guys, minus Zeller, who they never give big minutes to, we're going to play a minimum of 25 minutes. So, I mean, that ultimately meant like the bigger players, LaMelo, Graham, Rozier. Rozier was awesome, especially early on. There's no Hayward again today. Have you heard anything about minutes for Charlotte?
No.
Me either. And again, it's early in the day, so I wouldn't expect to. I mean, all their guards are very, very affordable if you think they're going to play bigger minutes.
I agree with that. I mean, someone's got to play minutes there. Like, definitely a spot to look into. No doubt about it.
And you want to know what? As much as we love Trae Young, he hasn't been sensational in the preseason. No. They got a lot of depth, so maybe the build is better. Take them out. And if you think these guys are playing minutes, you want to run Graham and Rozier or Ball, maybe that's not a bad play.
No, and also, like, in this build right here, like, you can fit a Dylan Brooks, but it's a lot harder than if you have, like, a Devontae Graham.
Right? I mean, you could put Rozier in the shooting guard position. Graham right there. Hell, you can still get Ball in the utility position if you want, and then you can run over to Dylan Brooks at small forward. And that just might be a better build today and probably a little lower owned. I think Trae Young will be forced into a majority of lineups.
I agree.
So maybe that's an alternative build for you right there. Again, we know that like the addition of Hayward eats into Rozier and Graham, but Hayward ain't in this game. And if you think these guys play bigger minutes, they're both pretty good and capable of balling. Graham started a little slow while Rozier balled. Graham was good later, hit a bunch of threes. And, Ball is not a great three-point shooter, but maybe he comes into the day with more confidence going 4 of 9.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think these guys are all definitely in play. It makes it hard because they're all in play, so you don't necessarily know which one to go to. But I agree with, your point. You can play all 3.
Yeah, and you got Bridges coming in off the bench, who is also solid.
For sure. I mean, no Hayward really helps him.
Absolutely. And then as far as the Magic side of things go, Fultz is coming in off of a really, really good game as well.
Yeah, he is. Man, he started off awful too. He was really bad at halftime.
Yeah, and he's affordable. And the other guy that I almost brought up last time, and I forget what I did instead, but the kid Anthony coming in off the bench, 13, 4, and 4. Not the worst play in the world. He could always be a guy too that maybe sees a little bit more run in this game.
I agree. I don't disagree with that.
Terrence Ross is back now. I probably wouldn't play him at 5,400, but hey, I don't think anybody's gonna.
Same. He just seems like mispriced compared to how they priced other guys.
Yeah, for sure. Aaron Gordon is still definitely being eased on his minutes. So, you'll always have a soft spot for him, but I doubt either of us is really looking to play him. They've kept his minutes low throughout the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to play him. Like 23 minutes isn't awful, but when the other guys are playing 30, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, and I just don't see a scenario where Gordon plays 30 minutes today and Vooch plays 15. Like, that just doesn't seem even realistic to me.
They might both play 15, but I'm with you.
Yeah, they might both play 15, But I just can't see like Gordon all of a sudden being the starter that's out there for a long time and the other guys play low minutes. Crazier things have happened, but I just don't see it.
I agree.
Okay. So, I mean, that kind of breaks down Orlando. You know, we've kind of talked over Charlotte. Now let's move to the crappiest game. These are two teams that are bad because Washington isn't playing Westbrook and Beal bigger minutes. Like, I think they'll be better as the season progresses, but when they're not playing their studs big minutes, these are just bad basketball teams.
They're bad, and Beal is – wait, what's Westbrook's deal tonight?
I think he's playing very limited minutes.
Yeah, I mean – for Washington, the guys I'm interested in or would be interested in are Wagner, assuming he's starting again, and Avdija. Because he's a guy they're giving good run to, and he's pretty good.
And Bertans is probably playing tonight. I wouldn't use him, but just another guy maybe eating into some potential minutes for guys like this, possibly.
Sure.
I think you're right, though. Avdija is still going to see his run.
Yeah, they want to get him run. He was a pro. Wagner, if he's starting, I could get on board. You know, not if he's not starting because he might not play.
Yeah, or, I mean, if he's coming off the bench.
I think it's a lot riskier, you know, if guys like Wagner or like Bertans are in.
For sure. You know, we liked Troy Brown Jr. last time. The news came out a little bit later that his role was going to be a little bit different, and he was so close to being one of the busts of the preseason. Closed hard late to be somewhat relevant. I don't think a lot of people go here. You know, again, I'm not super excited about it this time around, but there is that.
He was definitely close to being like the biggest bust I used all preseason. I mean, he had like 0 points after the, you know, first half, and he got benched after only playing like 6 minutes. I thought he wasn't going to come back in, and then he played with like he played not the whole fourth, but the whole end of the game.
I would implore you not to exaggerate, Matt. I think he had 0.25 points actually. So like, let's just, you know, that's still pretty good.
Well, I know I had messaged you, so yeah.
Yeah, I think he had 1 rebound and 2 turnovers. So I think he had 0.25 about 8-9 minutes into his run. And that's bad. There's no other way to call it. That's just not good.
That is shitty.
Yep. So he is out there. Yeah, again, he would not make an optimal lineup or anything like that. But if you're looking to go through the Washington guys, and also like some Westbrook and some Beal today, I mean, these are two guys who are going to have monster usage rates for Washington, which definitely gives me cause for pause. I like the idea of some of these guys who would play when Westbrook and Beal are not out there today.
Mm-hmm. I'm so with you there. I mean, I think Westbrook and Beal take a lot of the appeal away.
I mean, I know people are very down on Russell Westbrook, but Washington's going to win some games this year. That's a good backcourt. Those are two good players. And Westbrook, when we saw, was leading teams to the playoffs. They weren't winning anything, but as a one-man show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Beal's a good, you know, Robin for him. I think these guys will be formidable. I like Thomas Bryant and Bertans. I think Westbrook could lead the league in assists this year.
I agree.
So it's an interesting team. I'm looking forward to the regular season for them, but they're definitely lower down my list of guys to check out. What about Thomas Bryant?
I used Bryant once last time. He was pretty damn good. I am kind of afraid with like Westbrook and Beal back in, though. I don't know. I think that he's intriguing in tournaments, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a guy that relies on scoring to necessarily get his DFS score up there, but how does it affect his rebounding to have Westbrook in there?
I mean, I think it's going to hurt him.
Could. He was good last time out, came in with about 35 DK points. Bonga was actually decent too. I probably wouldn't love to go there, but just throwing that out there.
Yeah, he was decent. I mean, I'd rather use like Avdija because he's just a better player, but I mean, Bonga played 33 minutes, so.
Yeah, I had Avdija in a couple lineups, and I almost played Bonga once. I'm like, dude, I just remember playing him a couple times last year. He was just so irrelevant from a DFS standpoint.
Like, I'll say this about Avdija too. Like, he looked good. He was over 4 from 3, but like his shot looked good. A couple guys missed wide open shots that he would have had easy assists to. So I'm about that. I like that. Right. It's good.
What about the Detroit side of things? We know that they're awful.
They played well. See, this is my problem with them. They played really well last game, and they still weren't even fantasy relevant because they used so many guys.
Yeah. Not saying like, today can't be different, but I certainly won't want to put any money on it.
They played like as well as you could play, as well as they could play.
Josh Jackson had a nice little run off the bench. He shot the ball well, made 3 3-pointers. He went for almost 30 DK points, and he's dirt cheap. And we've always kind of liked him from a DFS perspective.
Yeah, he's always been a guy I've had a soft spot for. It's worrisome, though. Like, DeLon Wright, in the first 6 minutes of that game, had like 10 and 3. And then, I mean, what the hell happened?
I don't expect a ton from Rose or Griffin tonight if they even play. So I think there's some potential maybe with small sleepers in here, but nobody I feel comfortable. A guy like I could understand using, like especially if Blake Griffin isn't playing today. Okafor. Because we know what he can do in situations where it doesn't mean a lot. And that could be today. I would never play him in a cash game. I think it's risky as hell. But if you're playing like 10 lineups today, you're looking for a guy who could drop 35 DK points out of nowhere. He's a guy that can do that.
I agree.
It's not safe, and it's probably going to bite you in the rear end, but it's out there.
Truth. I will say one more point, though, to that. Like, big men against Washington.
Sure, why not?
It's never been a thing we've had a problem with.
No, not at all. I think that's something that we used a lot last year.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, overall, Detroit is both of this game, until we hear anything different, is less than desirable than the other two games.
What did Demboya do? Any idea?
Very ho-hum, 10 points, 2 boards, 1 steal. He had been good in game 2, but he only played 17 minutes.
Yeah, he's another guy, though, like if Blake Griffin's out, like I'd have more interest in him. Because it's just more usage, more everything for a guy like that.
I would definitely not be surprised if both Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin don't play today.
I agree. I mean, I would even in the regular season, I will never be surprised if they don't play.
I'm with you on that one.
Like definitely from what like my favorite pieces of this game are going to be like the Washington, like a Vidja. This game is a reason why ownership's going to be very condensed. Where even you're going to have like a guy like Collins you mentioned is going to be low owned. He'll still be like 20-25% because this game doesn't have that many appealing pieces at all.
No. Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose just don't seem like they belong on this team. Like, I think Derrick Rose could be a piece that helps somebody down the stretch this year.
Derrick Rose, like, even more so. Blake Griffin, you have guys that, like, are overpaid that used to be real. I don't know. I feel like Derrick Rose just fits that mold more, that he should not be on the Pistons.
No, I think Derrick Rose is a guy, like, could be that 6-man bucket getter for a team like Milwaukee. Like, I'm telling you, like, I'm not the hugest Derrick Rose fan, but I'd rather have him with his hand in the ball, with the ball in his hand, the last minute of a fourth quarter over Giannis, currently constructed.
Well, I'll say this, like, he's changed his game too, impressively. Like, he's changed his game. He's a much better shooter than he used to be.
Well, like, I still, like, would put him in the, like, if you just said last possession, he would still rank for me in the top 20 of NBA players who I would trust to, like, get a bucket right then.
Okay, that says a lot.
Yeah, not like Kevin Durant or LeBron or something like that, but in the lower part of that, like, I just need a bucket, like, kind of like in that Lou Williams mold.
I think that's a problem with Milwaukee. Like, you don't, like, who's your guy in that spot?
Right? Like, that's just not how Giannis is built. And I used to like Middleton right there, but he's had some less than stellar performances in the postseason where I don't trust him right now.
But the point is, you're right. Like, it doesn't need to be like a superstar. A guy like Derrick Rose is actually a real good fit because he doesn't need a ton of minutes when he's on the court. Like, you guys have a good bench. DiVincenzo's been starting, Augustine, all those guys. But Rose is a much better scorer than any of those guys.
Yeah, just an ISO score type of situation.
Yeah,
would be good.
He's like a former MVP type. He is a former MVP.
Yeah, you can't build around him to win a championship, probably even in his heyday. But, man, you need a bucket? It's Derrick Rose. Like, he's good for a bucket.
Yeah, like, hell yeah, 100%.
There's other teams he wouldn't fit on, but this is one where I think, that's the type of situation where it would work. So, okay. That about wraps it up for this one. I do think, as currently constructed, like, I have Morant over Trae Young if you don't hear anything different. What about you?
I do too.
I have Vucevic over Trae Young if we don't hear anything different about minutes.
Morant's into one of these guys that just walks into DFS points.
Yeah, I know you were big on him heading into the preseason, and he's been awesome so far. So I have no arguments with that.
Like, he's not Giannis or like that because his body's just not like that. But he goes wherever he wants on the court with the ball, and that's big, you know?
Yeah, he's a smart young player. Got a bright future in the league, and he's going to be a stud for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So Morant and Vooch are my top two, and then I think you either go to Trae Young or you look at like a Rozier Graham, and that allows you to grab also like a Dylan Brooks, head over to the power forward position. This is where you could get like a Vija. You know, again, I mentioned Jackson. Like if Blake Griffin and or Derrick Rose is out, I definitely don't mind using a Jackson right there because he's a guy who's actually decent at getting points. And you got like Anthony, Cam Reddish, you know, whatever it might be right here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys are in play. We mentioned Bane. Definitely keep your eye on injuries and stuff because it's just like normal NBA. All of a sudden, if a guy like Morant is out, then you got like all those other guys. So yeah, you have to be like that's why last night was tough. You had Giannis out, then you had Dame out. It definitely felt like normal NBA, except it was still the preseason. So I was thinking maybe I got caught up a little ahead of myself in loving this preseason so much. But that's what happens when you don't have a good night.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like preseason's a little. I mean, like Middleton wasn't that chalky last night. I just ended up using him everywhere, and he was pretty good, but only at like 30-some%.
There were a lot of good plays though, like especially like quickly Barrett, Middleton, Ingram, Zion. You know, like all those guys were good plays.
Mitchell Robinson was good and everything like that.
Quickly was real good. I don't know if you used him.
I did use him in 2 or 3 because New York legitimately had no other point guard.
Yeah, he was really good. I know some people were talking about that they've got, you know, he's not going to have that much usage because they've got Randall and Barrett. I'm like, yeah, he will. He's their only point guard. And, you know, Randall and Barrett, more Randall. Barrett tries to have a lot of usage, but he's not a good enough ball handler. Neither of those guys are.
Yeah, and it helped quickly hit all of his three-pointers for the most part.
For sure.
You know, that won't happen every single time, but I used him in 2 or 3. He was good. And he started out really good, really early, which definitely gave you the warm and fuzzies.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, he was good. The 2 value plays I liked were him and Max Strus from Miami. I ended up not using him because I didn't need the value, but he destroyed Ingram. I know Struss had like 22 real points, so that's what happens.
Yeah. Be on the lookout for today to get weird, though, because
I agree.
As much as we talk about Trae Young and J-Val and Vooch and Morant, any of those guys not playing wouldn't surprise me even the tiniest little bit.
So here's the thing. Here's how and why I think it could get real weird. I'm not going to be surprised if you see Vooch, Trae Young, Morant, all those guys out. And then all of a sudden you've got like value on value on value, and you don't even know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this could legitimately end up being a slate where you leave $8K on the table.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it could get real weird. It could not get weird, but I'm with you there.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even talk about it. Like, what have we heard? I mean, Russell Westbrook hasn't played in the preseason yet, from my best memory.
Right.
Like, what if Russ all of a sudden is going to play 25 minutes tonight, and all of a sudden you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, I can't see it, but yeah, I mean, it's not. If those other guys are out, like if a bunch of other studs are out, I mean, I can't see Westbrook playing more than like 15 minutes here personally. I just can't see it.
I don't think so either, but like we talked about it getting weird tonight. I mean, he hasn't played yet. Maybe they want to get him some minutes, get his feet wet. I don't know.
I mean, what do they expect? Like him just to walk into the regular season and like, I mean, listen, I think Washington has more talent now. Westbrook's good, but this is still a bad basketball team. It just is. Do you agree with that?
I do think they're going to compete for a lower seed in the East, though. I think they're going to be 500-ish.
So, I think that they have talent. Like, I think Westbrook's really good. Beal is good. They've got some other,
Bertans, Bryant.
Rui, Thomas Bryant, Troy Brown. I just think that I just don't think that they're necessarily a good team. They don't play good defense, but maybe that changes with a guy like Westbrook. Who knows?
Yeah, I know a lot of people are down on Westbrook, but one of the reasons he didn't like playing with James Harden is because he's all work ethic, and he could employ that onto this team a little bit. I don't think they're going to be elite defensively because I like Westbrook's tenacity, and I think Beal's a solid defender. But you look at guys like Bertans and a kind of a smaller Thomas Bryant in the middle and stuff like that. But they're going to be nice where Beal and Bertans hit 15 combined 3-pointers, and they're just going to run people out of the gym.
For sure.
I'm a big Bertans fan, just in case you guys can't remember.
Yeah, you love Bertans.
I just like that he just pulls up from 35 at any point and just starts gunning threes. He's fun to watch.
He is a good fit with Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be able to spread the floor. Westbrook should be able to get to the rim at will for a while this year.
Yeah, honestly, they do have talent. I mean, talked about Westbrook and Beal, Rui, Bertans, Avija, Troy Brown. So, like, yeah, I'm with you. This team, they're more talented, in my opinion, than they're talented enough to make the playoffs, to your point.
You were even talking about a guy like Ish Smith coming off the bench, solid backup point guard and stuff like that. All right, guys, that about does it for today. This is NBA. Rock and roll. We got NFL tonight, couple of games. Go Packers. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning for just some recatch up on DK and stuff like that.
Thanks, guys.